Name of your podcast?
The Way Out Podcast.
Okay, cool. And just look that up, you guys, The Way Out Podcast. And so we'll talk more about that, but I have some quick announcements. And first of all, today I want to mention this. Tomorrow is for those of you who are peer recovery coaches, navigators, any type of person who is helping those in recovery. We have a Zoom meeting, and you can go to Minnesota Recovery Connection and look that up. And it is it's at 12 to 1 p.m. Join us. It is a Zoom meeting, and you can be from anywhere in the state, and you get a half a CU training credit. And tomorrow it's going to be a naloxone training from Steve Rumler Hope Network. So I'm really excited about that. And then for those of you who want to be a supporter, an ally, or in recovery, we're going to have Day at the Hill, and that is on Tuesday. So go to MinnesotaRecoveryConnection.org, or just go to MRC, and I think it's MinnesotaRecovery.org. And so just look that up, do the invite. It takes a minute, and join us on Zoom, and it's going to be a great day at the Capitol. I really highly recommend that. And a few other mentions. The free clothing stores at Faith Lutheran Church on 499 Charles Avenue in St. Paul. It's the Frogtown Neighborhood Mission of Faith. It's an outreach offering free clothing for anyone who needs that. Provides free frozen meals donated by the Ramsey County Sheriff's Department. And there's also free baked goods. And that is offered by Patricia, and she does a great job with doing that. She organizes that with her nonprofit. We'll get that name for next week's announcement. And then if you guys out there are needing something virtual, Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. is an all-recovery virtual meeting with Minnesota Recovery Connection. And you know what? You just go to MinnesotaRecoveryConnection.org. So it's MinnesotaRecovery.org. Just click the link. And it's a virtual online meeting, and it's awesome, you guys, because it's an all-recovery meeting. Family, friends, anyone's welcome to come to that. And then one more resource I want to mention real quickly, ThriveFamilyRecoveryResources.org. It's a resource for families of loved ones suffering from substance use or co-occurring disorders. I got to tell you, for those who are struggling out there and need that family, if you don't know what to do, need some assistance, just look that up, and you know what? You can join that. They have a lot of support out there, and we'll be getting some other information. And I just want to mention this. Twin Cities Recovery Project is a great organization to reach out to for the Minneapolis locations. They help with social club, grief trauma support, street ambassadors for outreach, you guys. And then those organizations, by the way, that I just announced, if you need a recovery coach, and if you are struggling, let me tell you, if you're making $1 million, or if you are making $0 and you don't know what to do about your recovery, or you're struggling and you just don't know if you have a problem, or have questions about needing help, or resources, because you know what kind of resources are out there, or just thinking about seeing someone or talking to someone. It's confidential, it's free, and it's great. And if you need to find a support group or find a meeting, they will tell you about all those things. And I forgot to put my phone on the ringer, you guys. So we are going to go right into talking with Charles LeVior. And so I'm going to quickly say, you guys, the studio line is 651-313-5125. And you can text at 763-843-4262. That's 763-843-4262. And we'll be taking all kinds of calls today. And got my phone on silent now. And then I just want to say a quick thank you. Bridge was highlighted this last month in the spotlight for the peer PSA monthly newsletter. So I just want to say bravo to Bridge. She has been a real good support in the studio here. And Bridge, I just want to congratulate you for all the work that you do, and you really reach out to those in recovery, and you support women in recovery, and oftentimes those things are forgotten, but you do a lot of service work and support people, and I just want to say thank you for all the work you do, and we appreciate you. And she's here every Sunday. She's helping out and sets everything up, and she's making my life so much easier, so I just got to thank her. And that's how we got, and you know, and do you want to say something real quickly?
I'm grateful to be here, and I almost didn't make it in because of the snow.
Right.
But you guys inspired me to get my butt here. So thanks for having me.
Okay, and now we're going to continue on. So, Charles, you know what? This is about you today. So, talk about your journey and your story of recovery, because it's one of hope, it's one of grace, and it's one of grounding. You grounded yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Muhana, thank you so much for having me on. And Bridge, she is the woman behind the scenes for sure. So thank you for doing all the magic behind the scenes to get this orchestrated. Before I talk a little bit about my story, what a great time to be in recovery. What a great day and age to be in recovery with all those resources that you rattled off at the top. We were very lucky people.
Oh my gosh, we are.
Right? To have this wide assortment of resources from peer recovery specialists and recovery coaching, all recovery meetings, and to have these nonprofits that are dedicated to support those of us who are in recovery. It's an amazing thing.
And then I'm going to mention one more thing, because I was helping someone, and some people don't like to talk.
Right.
I'm a phone person. I like to get on the phone. I'm not the greatest texter. But if someone needs to text, let me tell you, 741-741. And it is a service for anyone who needs a crisis counselor, a crisis line. If you are want to use and don't want to use, if you are having mental wellness issues, mental health, if you are having thoughts of harming yourself, any of those things, someone will get on the line and start chatting with you and give you all the support you need. So we are so lucky in this day and time, aren't we? We are blessed people. So just remember that, you guys out there listening. 741-741 is all you have to text.
That's great. And sometimes that's a more comfortable and an easier point of entry for people in order to get help. So thanks again for having me on. This is great. And we've got this great view of downtown St. Paul here with snow-flocked trees. It's very festive.
Yes.
You see the Capitol.
Indeed, yeah, right. We're in the shadow of the Capitol. So my name is Charlie LeVior. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I haven't found it necessary to drink or use mood-altering substances since December 6, 2014.
Right on. I love that.
Which, if you would have asked me prior to that day if that was possible, I would have told you absolutely not. There's no way that I could maintain continuous sobriety for that long, because I had learned over bitter experience up until that point that there was really two truths that I kept running into. And those two truths were, over any extended period of time, my drinking and use, my addictions, would become unmanageable. The second truth I would run into is that I couldn't stay sober by myself because life would become unmanageable. And those truths kept coming up over and over and over again in this awful cycle. And it started when I was very young. I first drank when I was 15 years old. And that was on the heels of my mom dying when I was 11, and I didn't know really how to cope with those emotions. I turned to food first, and then, didn't know how to deal with that. And at 15 years old, a friend was having a party. His parents were out of town. He lived on a lake. They had a fully stocked bar. And when I took that first drink, all of those awful feelings that I had carried with me for what felt like an eternity to that point were instantly gone. The depression, the anxiety, the insecurity, gone. And it also unlocked things in me that I was not able to unlock prior to that moment. I could stick up to the guys. I could flirt with the girls. It made me into the person I always wanted to be. but couldn't get there up until that moment.
Because of fear.
That's right. That's right. And insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
And all I wanted to do was have more of that. And I was out of control at that party. They couldn't get me to stop. I'm drinking everything in sight. They're trying to keep me away from more alcohol because they're terrified that I'm going to kill myself drinking. They stick me in a dog kennel.
What?
Yep. Outside. They lock me in a dog kennel. It's the only way they could keep me under control.
Wow.
And a couple hours later, they check on me, and my lips are blue, and I'm not breathing.
Oh my gosh.
Alcohol poisoning.
Mm-hmm. And my best friend was able to revive me somehow by pounding on my chest, and then they proceeded, instead of calling for help, feeding me an entire bottle of syrup of Ipecac,
Oh jeez.
which then induced hours of vomiting, and then I had to go to work at McDonald's the next day.
Oh my goodness.
The manager caught wind and stuck me on the grill all day as my punishment for drinking too much. I don't remember any of the bad stuff. The bad stuff didn't stick.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
You know, like, I was blacked out, so I don't remember a lot of that.
Oh, so you had that blackout moment. So let me just mention something. Oftentimes there's those who get to remember that horrible thought. You had so much, you induced yourself with so much drinking your first time that you didn't have to remember all those poor, idiotic, and crazy things that you did, or
right.
lipping off, or anything else.
That's right.
That you just went out.
That's right.
And that's why you went right into alcohol poisoning.
That's right.
And you are so lucky you are alive and here, and that's really part of your journey. That's why you are here, because you get to share that with us.
I do. Yeah, I do. It was at that time, there was really two camps of people. The first camp was, that guy should never drink again because he was a mess. And then there's the other camp, and he's a party animal. And I literally died and came back to life again, right? So you might be the quarterback of the football team, but I died and came back to life again. I was a party legend, and so that became part of my identity. Throughout my high school career, and I was a binge drinker and a daily pot smoker all through high school, because that allowed me to keep those awful feelings at bay, and the binge drinking became my alcohol was always my first love. It just was, right?
And can I ask you a question? When you think about all this and you're explaining, when you started doing that, didn't that kind of put everything on the, it allowed you to be this person, but it really put everything behind you so you didn't have to think about it
100%.
anymore. So, you feel like you're in charge, and suddenly you have these ways of dealing things, but really behind the scenes, you got to shove things even further back, and that's where the mental wellness issues come in, and the struggles.
No doubt about it. I was using drugs and alcohol in order to cope, without question. And I loved how they made me feel. I loved the agency they gave me over my feelings. When I was feeling a way I didn't want to feel, I could use, or I could get drunk, and I could eliminate those feelings, or I could suppress those feelings. So it gave me power. It gave me agency over these feelings that I didn't know how to deal with in any other way, that had crippled me for years until I had found this stuff. My parents sent me to treatment after this event, and I had literally just found this stuff. There was no way on earth that I was going to stop, right? So I lied on the intake and got into outpatient treatment and waxed poetically about steps that I wasn't planning on working. And I was ready to chip out after 28 days at the Fairview Adolescent Treatment Program. And they're passing the coin around. Charlie, you're going to stay sober forever. If I just had the wisdom, if I just had a shred of the wisdom you had, I'd be... And Eileen, the head treatment counselor, comes in. I didn't even think she was paying attention. She usurps the circle, grabs the coin. Charlie, you're lying to this group.
Oh, good.
You're lying to yourself. You will use again, and it will probably kill you.
Wow.
And she walked out. And she was right. And
And she was honest.
everyone's like, what up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And she saw right through it. And every time my use or my addictions, my drinking became unmanageable, Eileen's voice would come into my head. A lost relationship, a DWI, some sort of internal consequence. You're lying to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use again, and it's probably going to kill you.
Deep.
And I had these consequences, and as my addictions progressed, there was periods where I would need to be abstinent. I had a run-in with a DWI, my second DWI, and I had a nudge from the judge, and I had to go back to the rooms of 12-step recovery, and I wasn't ready to get sober then either at 22 years old. I'm sitting in these meetings because I have to get my card signed, and I'm listening to these people that are really working this 12-step program, and half of me is just jealous as all get out that you've got this thing figured out, like you can get there, you can get to the spiritual place that I know I can't get to right now, and half of me wants to. And the other half of me says, I'm not like you.
Yes, I know that. Oh, let me tell you.
Now, I'm glad this program is here for you people, because you all need it. Okay? I've heard your stories.
And I was one of those people who heard of the 12-step program, and there, I got that at least. I have neck problems, all these other things, so I was having a struggle for a moment. But I never knew. When I got out of the hospital, I went to my first 12-step meeting, and I never knew anything about it. And so I 1, 2, 3. So you had it throughout, and you're like. But I've seen people come in and they're like, here's the piece of paper. Can you sign this beforehand? And I'm like, because I ran a meeting once and a couple times, and I'm like, no. I said, once we're done.
When we're done.
When we're done, so you can learn. Because I was told about those people. But I get it. But there's envy because people.
100%.
And you know what I did? I just prayed for them. Because, there's no way to say, this is, because. You said you're jealous because you really are, because you watch them have it. So it's not that you're angry at them or that you don't want it. It's that you just didn't have the ability at that moment.
A big part of me really wanted to get it. And I was convinced at that point that I was going to be one of those people that couldn't. Like, I just couldn't get there. And we hear a lot in recovery in 12-step recovery, that being really smart or intelligent is not an asset initially in recovery, and it wasn't for me. So I stayed sober for about a year on wall steps and fellowship, and they say if you work wall steps, which is I just read them on the wall and then talk about them, that is all, you could have an off-the-wall program. And I did.
Okay.
And I met the mother of my 2 children when I was still sober. She got pregnant, and that was it. The program was gone. I didn't need that anymore. I had to focus on this, and it was addiction whack-a-mole from then on. And she knew I was sober, so I had to try to keep that in check, so I could only really binge in sort of strategic spots. But other addictions came up, and so I really was in this place where I hadn't addressed the root of my disease, my addiction. And if I kept the drinking at bay, which took a lot of willpower, another addiction would come up, food or sex or whatever that might be. And if I kept that one down, then another addiction. And that's the way my addiction manifested until we got divorced. And when we got divorced, it was a difficult experience in a lot of ways. But I think the worst part about it for me was I lost all accountability. I didn't have somebody living with me that I had to try to keep things in check with. So that's really when my drinking came back in full force.
Yes, because now, not living with someone, there's no one, you're not like, oh, I gotta hide it more. Suddenly you're like, oh, they're out of the way. This is, but, while we go into, we're gonna go into your songs in a minute, but we got a couple questions, and so think about this. Let me just ask you this before we go into song. Ask Charlie if he's still in contact with that friend that essentially saved your life.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you about. I am going to tell you about that friend because he's really important to my recovery journey.
Oh, wow. Okay, so let's just go into that.
So we'll tell we'll tell you.
And so while we play songs, anyone interested in sending more messages, call 651-313-5125. That's 651-313-5125, or text at 763-843-4262, and that is 763-843-4262. And here goes the music, you guys. And excellent.
You hear it?
Yeah, I know. So we are gonna get that playing right now. Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
I'm learning how to play the mic and get songs in the background. Volume.
There it is.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
There we go. Oh, there we go.
Good volume. There you go. Good shit.
And and people in St. Paul, and if someone's not in St. Paul, they just have to do WFNU.org and push the listen button.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Stream anywhere.
Oh, I know song.
Yeah, Tom Petty.
And so, I'm going to mention to you that's interesting is when you're talking, something I learned about some of the, I like to help men,
Yeah.
I help women, but there's women groups, for that. But often men don't deal with emotions.
Right.
I mean, now we're in a different time, depending on the age group. So this is the thing with as a coach and stuff, learning. There's different levels. You have to know what generation.
Totally.
And so, I'm not going to age you, but I assume you're when we were younger, we weren't allowed to really talk about feelings.
Without question.
Yeah.
Without question. Yeah, I'm 43.
Okay, yeah. So, and I'm a little older, so I'm about 4 years. But yes, you were in that generation where
100%.
it just started to change.
Yes.
But and one of the things is that we weren't allowed to share. So when you have someone in recovery, and suddenly something comes up in that emotion, the only thing they were ever taught, because they were taught they couldn't discuss it, they want to cry, they can have the recovery all they want, but once that comes up, the first thing they can think of is to hide that. So if they don't work through that often, because we can always we can always give them sobriety.
Yep.
If we don't resolve the issue of the mental wellness issue,
without question,
then they don't get to pull through that, because it's saying it's okay to deal with that. It's okay. Heck, I've gone to therapy. I go to therapy and be happy. I understand that.
Yeah.
And that's an okay thing. But and then you get the younger generation who's all out for that.
Right.
And so it's very different. But
Right.
talking about it makes a little difference, because the drinking allows you to handle it in the back,
Right.
because it does sneak up on you. A memory, a moment, the loss of your mom, example.
Right. Yep. And therapy was critical for my recovery. I did that in parallel. I worked 12-step recovery, and I engaged in EMDR therapy in parallel.
And did you have a sponsor as well at the time?
Yes.
Yeah, see, you stole those tools.
I needed multiple paths.
Yeah.
For
Oh,
sure.
so you guys went through it.
I did DBT at the same time as outpatient treatment, still working full time.
And this is what I did.
All the required meetings. Nice. Dancing in the floor.
Yeah, I did a whole.
I love it.
Yeah, so.
I still haven't got the nerve, but I'm gonna ask my DBT therapist if she'll do my show.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know. Should I just hold her like on this pedestal? I know she doesn't want to be
Well,
on
maybe
this
she gets
pedestal.
on this one.
She does her shit. She was like really down to earth, but she was blunt. Like she told me.
Okay,
what
that'd
I
be great
needed
to
hear.
know. Yeah, so, and then, see, I learned all this stuff too. I went to emotional intelligence is one other thing.
That's cool. I actually just ordered a book and a workbook, just focusing on emotional sobriety
Okay.
I'm really trying to focus on that.
And I'm going to give you that brain one, too. I have another one that you can blow.
I love that you said, though, that, you went in there and half of you wanted it. So what I like to say, especially when newcomers are in the room, is when I finally got on the train and decided I was going to do whatever it took, I would openly say, I thought I'd get kicked out, I never did, but I would say, I have a desire to have your desire.
Yes.
That was the only requirement.
But when do
I truly have that desire to have your desire. You want me to be honest.
Yep.
But I don't really have it right now.
Right.
Can't force it.
And one of the interesting things for me is I never heard recovery, so hearing the word recovery would have been a very different, because I was very private in my addiction.
Same.
Right.
Very, very private.
Oh yeah, changing just the way I was labeled.
And then I did have
labeled
7 years and
myself.
5 years and 2.5 years, but it was very, white knuckle.
We're gonna do back-to-back songs, just
Yep.
so you know.
Yeah.
It's okay. Should be lined up.
Johnny, come on, the Man in Black.
Yes.
And this was a great song before Johnny Cash did it, Trent, 9 Inch Nails, but I mean, this
Yeah.
became Johnny's song.
Yes. Yesterday I was on the morning show. It's all music, and we were doing original versus cover.
Oh.
I almost did
Oh!
those two.
How are you liking that?
It's fun.
Okay, it's totally separate from the. You like that? Oh,
Yeah, I like just
it's-
focusing on music.
It
Yeah.
takes you away from the whole
Oh, I
recovery
love
world.
music.
Because Mike has no,
It's great.
involvement in recovery. So
Yeah.
I don't have to say
Oh,
about
the music
that.
is great.
Yeah.
Great.
Music was my original therapy.
100%. Without question.
Because you don't need people.
Without question.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's so funny. One of the simplest things I learned at DBT that now is like, why did I think of that? It's like one of the skills is practicing opposite to emotion. And music is key. If you're sad, don't listen to sad songs.
I know, that's, yes.
Yes, I mean, hello, but I've done that.
I gotta catch
I can do
myself.
that to myself.
Oh,
Horribly.
100%.
Yeah.
I did that all the time.
Colin Scott, when he sings on one song, Dancing on My Own, it's a slow version. Because I take it as being separated from my addiction. And
Well, this week I found that I needed to force myself to feel emotions because I was totally distracting from what had happened recently. And
Oh,
so
from that, your child,
accidentally I put on a song that does make me sad, but it was good. I needed it to force myself to cry to like reprieve.
yeah.
So I'm working on that with my girls right now, knowing when to feel your emotions, making yourself feel them. Feel those feelings. That's what I always tell them.
Yep.
That's what Pam said to me. Oh, I see. I want to watch this level.
Oh.
They don't want that up on red. You can trust me, but I should figure out how to get the head. I might get an extender so I can just plug my headphones into that one.
Yeah.
I don't know why this doesn't want to. This works on my laptop.
I wonder if that one works. Your headphone, if I plug it into this, if it works. Sometimes I plugged in my phone, it didn't work on this. That one day when I did the interview with that's why I'm having him back on the 27th.
Yeah. Oh.
So we can from in here, we can go out there and do it.
Oh, it is the same guy. Okay, I was wondering.
Is he announced it in his in the St. Cloud he announced it in his
Oh, good. Yeah, we don't want to change on him again.
No.
So it's really cool, but Mike's trying to hook me up with this program, the Hindenburg program, on my laptop.
Okay.
So I can create like an intro for the show. Have you heard Mike's show? He has a cool intro to his 9:45 show.
I would love to do something like that.
Yeah, then we don't have, and then we could even do something where we have the announcements already read.
Yeah.
So we just hit a button, it plays, and
Yeah.
then you just go live.
Yeah. I don't know anything. Mike keeps communicating with you, right?
Yes.
Mike. Okay, I'm glad.
I've been playing with the little
So Mike,
studio
Mike,
out there.
the
Mike
station.
Reds. Yes. The
Okay.
one I've been training with.
No, oh Mike, not Mike. Oh, that's not Philip. Okay, Mike Reds.
All right.
And we are back. Oh, and hey, we are back. Good song selection.
Thank you.
Sorry, hey, just quickly, what's up with the songs? Tell me a little bit.
Yeah, good question. So for me, it was about wanting to pick two songs that really represented how I felt in my active addiction, and then two songs that represented how I felt as I began my recovery. And those songs are very representative of how I felt in my active addiction. And that I was constantly thinking to myself, if you knew what it was like to be me, you would use too. You would drink too.
Oh, yes. And you know what? I'm going to say something about that. I get that. You know why? Because if you knew what it was like, you would do what I did and then some. And the pain and the dealing and the suffering. And what we end up finding out is we are not alone in that. And once you find that out, an aha moment happens. Ta-da!
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have found others, because sometimes you say, oh, that person doesn't suffer as much as I do. Or this. No, we all suffer. And that's the thing. And someone said, well, and I've talked about my story, or someone I've talked to privately, so, oh, you've suffered so bad, or this is so bad. No, we all have. And my suffering, you know what that is? It allows me to understand others. And so it is no worse. I've been blessed. And maybe I've been blessed to understand my emotion and the level of it, so I can have the empathy and understand. Because I don't want to have pity. The pity is different. And we talk often, Bridget and I talk about this on the show. Sympathy and empathy are two different things.
Yes.
When I have sympathy for myself, it is in the gutter. It's not going to get me anywhere. But when I have empathy and say, hey, and when you have that for yourself, you lift yourself because you have to also forgiving. Because we've hurt others, we've done things, but once that's there, we move forward. And it sounds like I'm just going to say this: you have really you've drawn me into your story, and so let's go right into your friend. Because of that, because I gotta tell you, that person seems to be really involved. So we're not forgetting. So
we'll not forget.
So isn't that cool?
It is amazing.
And the music is great. And
yes.
I think next time, Bridge, I think we're supposed to announce artist and who's singing.
Yeah. So Tom Petty, You Don't Know How It Feels.
Okay, good.
Right? And Johnny Cash, Hurt, which is a cover of the original Nine Inch Nails. Right?
Oh, and look, Don, and I think this is why I love you. You just you have this background, and yes, he's got the broadcasting background. And hey, let me just do a disclaimer real quickly, because we talk about hot topics on here. WFNU LP is a volunteer-run station made up of many different community voices. Each program expresses one aspect of the diversity and not the view of WFNU or FTI as a whole. So go ahead and continue your story. And I'm just going to say, anyone listening, if you do want to call in, 651-313-5125. That's 651-313-5125. Or, of course, the new age is 763-843-4262. That's texting, 763-843-4262.
So what I kept running into was those two truths. I couldn't manage my use and drinking, but I couldn't manage to stay sober because being sober without any help, all by myself, was just far too painful. And I would become restless, irritable, and discontent. And I would leave myself with no choice but to go back to the only thing that I knew that worked: drugs and alcohol or some other addiction. I am, at this point now, on the back end of my third divorce, my third marriage. I'm heading for a third divorce, desperately trying not to get divorced for the third time, right? And my wife at the time looks at me and says, "You drink every day, Charlie." I said, "Yeah, baby." But it's not a problem. It's only a few.
Living alone and living with someone, very, very different.
They're very different. I can Jekyll and Hyde very well when I live alone. Right? I can project that I am not an alcoholic and an addict, and I can function.
Because we can function some can really function well,
right.
And some cannot.
That's right.
And that's nothing against someone, but
and there's no value judgment on what's on it being quote unquote better to be a functional alcoholic or a functional addict, right? It still hurt people. It still was painful. It still caused a lot of problems. But I could Jekyll and Hyde it a lot better when I wasn't living with somebody. I'm on my third marriage. She looks at me. She's like, "You drink every day." It's only a few. Now she's counting. And the problem y'all, with that is then I decided that I was going to try to outsmart her by working some sort of like garage to fridge program, right? So that, she was going to not notice that I was drinking way more than a few. Right? The problem with trying to outsmart somebody that's A, already smarter than you, and B, not drunk, is it doesn't work very well. She quickly realized that it was much more than a few. And she said, "You're getting drunk every night. Do you have a problem?" No. I can quit anytime I want. She said, "Cool, quit for 30 days. Now, I should have seen that coming. So I quit for 30 days on Marlboros and resentments, which I don't recommend.
Probably lots of resentment.
A lot of resentments. Yep.
Doesn't help the mind, does it?
No. But I managed to grit out 30 days abstinent, completely dry, without murdering anybody, which was, a feat in and of itself. And I said, "See, I told you, I'm not an alcoholic. Ta-da!" And convinced her that it would be okay to buy some alcohol for my son's birthday and Thanksgiving that fell on the same day that year. My dad and my stepmom were coming over, and I said, "I'll get the alcohol." I went to the liquor store and came back with enough booze to get an army drunk. And there's 4 of us that are going to be drinking for like an afternoon. I never liked to put myself in this box because I knew myself just well, even though I wasn't ready to admit my addiction and alcoholism. I knew enough about myself to know that I couldn't stop when I needed to. And I always, 2 things when I drank. Either when I enjoyed it, I didn't control it. And when I controlled it, I didn't enjoy it. But this time, I only can have a few. I cannot get drunk. Like, everything's riding on this.
Right.
Everything's riding on this. I can only have a few. And so, of course, start drinking. I can't stop. I'm drinking other people's half-drunk wine, and I get completely smashed. And I mean, I really, with every fiber of my being, I didn't want to get drunk. I just didn't.
And I really believe you on that. And I know what you're talking about, because you just, in your heart, in your soul, and you know what? And that's the addiction part. That's when you really know that's that point where you know it's addiction. Because you just came off that whole journey, and because you don't want to hurt it.
Just this time.
Damn, this whole little thing, for yourself, everything.
And she looks at me, and after everybody's gone, and says, "What's wrong with you?" And she wasn't trying to be mean. She was really wondering. And my son looks at me and looks at her and said, "What do you mean? It's just Dad. He's just drunk again." And that pierced the veil of, I have everybody fooled. I was fooling nobody.
They know.
So you got to go to treatment. You just got to go. And so I went to treatment, not because I wanted to get better, not because I wanted to stop drinking, not because I wanted to get sober. I went to treatment because I didn't want to get divorced. That's why I went to treatment. And when I arrived at the intake, and she asked, 3-word question, "Why are you here?" And I don't know what it was about that, but I broke down and I got completely honest for the first time in my entire life about the full scope and scale of my addiction from the word go, from that moment when I was at that party and got so drunk that I stopped breathing and my lips were blue and my best friend had to revive me from death, to that moment in the treatment counselor's office. I got completely honest with another human being and myself for the first time about the full scale, scope, and nature of my substance abuse. And she asked me, she said, "Okay, what do you want to get out of this thing?" I said, "I want to know why I am the way I am." And she laughed and she says, "Oh, okay. So let's say we figure it out. Let's say it's because your mom died when you were 11. Let's say, Charlie, it's because you have big addict and alcoholic switches and they were bound to get tripped at some point. Or a combination of the two. Do you think if you find out why you are the way you are, you will ever be able to drink normally again?" "No, I don't." Do you think you'll ever be able to use safely again if you find out why you are the way you are? No, I don't. Okay, so we figure out how you get better instead of why you are the way you are. That was that first light bulb moment. Like, that's the wrong question.
That's because you aren't the way you are. Because
doesn't matter.
That's the thing we have to stop. Everyone, when you're listen to this, it's not about the way you are, because it's, we define ourselves that way. It's there's nothing wrong with you. It's just now it's accepting and moving forward. And now look at it, you have recovery.
That's
I'm
right.
just going to say something about that. The empowerment that you give, your journey. And can I ask you a question? Because we have some a couple messages first. Do you struggle thinking about alcohol or anything anymore?
I don't.
Can I just say something to you? Let me just say something. I'm going to say this on air. I'm one of those people who are blessed and have this great glee about recovery, and I don't get to have these thoughts, and it's so nice to hear somebody else say that, because listen, people, we can get that. It happens, yeah. And it's because you get to work through those things.
That's right.
And hey, by the way, Steve Hines sent a message. I love it. Charlie has a sober AF shirt. I have 3 of them. He's in recovery with AA. I'm using Smart Recovery. We're both finding peaceful sobriety. Rock on, sir.
Yeah.
So hey, thank you for listening in. And another one. Hey, you answer. Oh, here's another one. Someone. You answered the question. So hey, I like that question you answered, my friend.
And to talk about my friend, so I come out of this treatment counselor's office, and I'm at the same time devastated that the reality of my addiction and alcoholism is now undeniable, and that's a feeling that's, unless you felt it, is very difficult to describe when I've been running from it for 20 years. And I didn't know what to do. And I got home, and I was just lonely, and I was terrified. And my first thought was, my best friend, the same one that revived me all those many years ago, is sober. He's in recovery.
Oh, ain't that
And
just that's the earth, that's the world, that's God, that's whatever you want to call higher power, but that's the spirituality of finding that that connection, that 6-degree moment.
And so he didn't just save my life once. He saved it twice. Because I called that guy daily. And he shared his experience, strength, and hope. And he just said, it will get better. And I know how you feel. And I've been there, and you're not alone. And here's what I did. I got a sponsor. And I worked the steps to the best of my ability in order.
The best of my ability. It's not you have to do this.
No.
It's the best of your ability. We're not saying you have to do all this.
And that was the beginning. Because I was able to reach out on a regular basis to somebody who had felt like I had felt, thought like I had thought, done what I had done, and they got better. And I believed for the first time in my life that I could get better too.
And we're going to go right into songs, you guys. And if you have any more questions, 763-843-4262. That's text messages. And the calling number is 651-313-5125.
How's the volume?
There we go.
I got you off mic.
Oh, it's for the song?
Yeah, the song. Is the song okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, good. I was like, perfect timing. Inspiring.
I'm going to have you on again sometime.
I was going to say, this is not enough time.
Yeah.
Not enough time.
We're going to go into, because this is really good. And then I think we should do, I would love to do some, I want to do a series on different types of recovery meetings, so people understand what happens in the room, so they can, so they see it's not scary.
Right.
Because somebody had sent someone's going to a meeting, right? It's kind of amazing. I've had some really good responses. So someone went and got recovery friendly. They were a listener. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's why we do this. Come on.
So yeah, there's a couple things.
I listened to this all the time when I first got sober. It was like,
Yeah.
So you're working with the kids on things, just you finally dealing with that? Not the kids, but your own emotion.
Yeah.
Or
I woke
him.
up kind of in a funny.
Or him. You gotta let him just let that.
Oh. Yeah. I don't know. It's out of my hands now. I did my part.
Isn't it amazing when there's how they assume the worst sometimes?
Sorry. Volume is way high.
Oh, love their music. Okay.
I just remember walking, just singing this at the top of my lungs, like when I first went. I want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I really wanted it with everything I had.
Well, see,
Really
for me, my
meant it.
journey, interesting. When I didn't do the alcohol, I said I'm breaking the. I felt good about breaking the chain.
Yeah.
Because there was a period I had that because but I broke the chain, so I didn't have to deal with it. Wow, heck, I got to stuff again and stuff and because it dealt with a lot of trauma. Because back then you were allowed to get beat.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. We were allowed to get the crap beat.
Yeah.
out of
Oh,
us.
you sure were.
Holy cow!
You sure were.
Yep, and they didn't do anything.
Nope.
And even when the schools knew it was bad,
I know.
when they knew it was really bad, they didn't do anything.
Nope.
And then you get hope, and you thought they were going to do something, and no.
Right.
And so that was a different. Then you think that that's the way you have to live,
Yeah.
and so and then you get adjusted to that. Wow, you get set in a whole different mindset.
Do you want to do back-to-back song? Otherwise, you might not have enough time.
Yeah,
to
should
do
we?
the last- Let's-
Can we miss?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, yes.
What? I thought we were doing back-to-back.
Oh, back to back.
Back to back. Yeah.
Trust me, Jeff.
I thought we said we were.
The buttons.
Okay, I'll let you do the buttons.
Well, he's been doing. How long have you been doing it?
Almost a year now. Oh my God, this is March, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is celebrating a year. This at the 20 this month will be a year.
Okay.
Cool.
We gotta celebrate.
We have the celebration show.
Yes.
Hey guys.
Yeah. So I've only been helping a month.
And I got into this and I had no clue what I was doing. I mean,
Yeah.
and then she got some great training, and I mean, I used to ask her to start. I used to just respond.
Yes. While in pain.
Yeah, you guys are doing
It's
great.
painful to watch.
Yes.
So I'm just like, let me help. Let me help.
You guys are doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are rocking it.
And I'm doing all right. My head's pounding really bad right now, but I'm doing okay. My fingers got stuck. That's why I'm like,
Yeah. We're working it.
But you know what? That's all right.
Oh, I was waiting for one of you two to be like, no, let's just reschedule.
No, I can handle it.
So, but since you both in, I'm like, that means I'm coming.
I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as I got here, I was like, what was I talking about? What was I thinking?
You put a lot of effort in your. I looked at your when I looked it up. Yours, you got put a lot of typing skill and.
Yeah.
I mean, I
He's
can't.
a wizard.
I can't do anything. I mean, yeah, you're like a wizard, but I can't.
Yeah, that's a passion project for sure. I really enjoy the whole process of it, and I'm a perfectionist, of course, right? And so
See, I am too, but the problem is, see, my right hand, I can't snap my fingers together at the same time.
Yeah.
So I've had neck surgery and I have all these things, so my fingers don't work. So I try to do something and only half comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but it's. I imagine doing these things. It makes it really hard,
Yeah.
but it also has taught me to be humble and just absorb
Patient. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and give what I
Slow
can.
it down.
Yeah. And your best is good enough.
Yeah, my best is good enough. Well, we're perfectionists.
It's easy for me to tell somebody else that.
Yeah.
Right.
So how old are your kids or kid?
2, 20 and 18.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, which makes me just feel old AF.
Same.
Yeah.
Samesies, yeah.
My oldest will be 18 on the 19th.
19th of what?
This month.
Oh, good.
So
I'm the
crazy.
19th of August. 19th is a good day.
Oh, you're August? I'm a Leo too.
Uh,
13th.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I have a great way when we come back to wrap the story. I'll put a
Yep.
bow on it, and then, we can...
Yeah.
So how much time do we have left after the...
We'll have about 3 minutes.
Great. Perfect. Yep, I have a great way to wrap it, and then we can...
Just let him take one.
Yep. We'll let him
Wrap
get
it up.
in. And who's next week?
Melanie.
Okay. That'll be fun.
She hasn't sent me her songs yet, but I've been making sure to keep messaging her. She wrote Warriors in Recovery.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she's
Yeah, I give them like an AP. Most of them just give me stuff.
yeah.
And I'm doing the like first and whatever, but yeah. Oh, it's some are real fast. Like Donovan, he's like fast. He gives you all that.
Yeah.
I bet you'd love to have him on your show. He's really good.
Hook me up.
Major.
I love sharing other people's stories.
Yeah,
I
he's
love
pretty.
it.
He's pretty amazing. What he does in St. Cloud and stuff. Yeah, he's pretty amazing. Especially for veterans. And hey, talk about the music real quickly. Who are the artists?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So we
look
have
at that.
Bleachers. I want to get better, and I just remember right away early in recovery walking and singing that song at the top of my lungs because for the first time in my life I truly wanted to get better. And so that song speaks to that really, really powerful raw emotion that I had that genuine willingness to do whatever it took to get better. And Social Distortion, I was wrong, is a great song. It really did represent, prior to doing the work, and I'll talk about that in just a second, but prior to doing the work, I had all of these really intense feelings around all of the things that I had done and the way I had viewed life. I was wrong. I was wrong about it all. I thought I didn't need people. I thought I didn't need God. I thought I didn't need anything besides my alcohol and myself and my drugs. That's it.
What did you just say? You were what?
Wrong.
Oh, when we admit that, it just life is a lot easier, isn't it?
It is indeed. So I went about the business of working the 12 steps, and what they did for me, more than anything else, is they straightened out really key relationships that were all messed up prior to recovery. The first relationship that was messed up was the relationship with my addiction. I got honest with it through the 12 steps. And then I got to straighten out my relationship with my higher power.
Mm.
And then I got to straighten out the relationship with myself. And then, and only then, was I really able to straighten out my relationships with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do it in that order. First, the relationship with my addiction, then my higher power, then myself, then others.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed everything for me.
Yourself. Do you hear that? Yourself, because that's a big step.
It's huge.
It's huge, life changing.
No doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's given me the ability to be able to live life in sobriety one day at a time and not have to be burdened by and plagued by the obsession. The obsession's gone. And I remember distinctly coming into meetings and a guy stood up and said, "The obsession's been lifted." And even though I wanted this thing desperately, I was like, BS.
Yes.
That's not real. That doesn't happen. He's lying. Okay? But he wasn't. Okay? He wasn't lying. And so that's the magic. That is the gift that's before us in recovery.
Yes, that is truly a gift. And everyone, I just gotta say, we just gotta say thank you so much, Charles. And how do people find you on the
Way Out podcast?
Plug it up.
Plug it up.
The Way Out podcast, and we're sharing other people's recovery stories because therein lies the way we get better, is by relating to other people's stories. Not only do they tell us it's possible when we recover out loud, that recovery is possible, they show us how.
Yeah.
wayoutcast.com. That's wayoutcast.com.
Whalecast.com, and we'll post that on our Facebook page. And everyone, Rise Up Hour at Facebook, and then you can go to Rise Up Hour on Also behind the scenes on YouTube. And by the way, you guys, next week our guest speaker is
Melanie Moberg,
and she has written a book,
Warriors in Recovery.
Warriors in Recovery. And you guys, you know what? Just have we have less than a minute.
We're out of time.
We're out of time. You guys have a great Sunday and drive safe. Let it all melt, and see you next week.
Be well, everybody.
Do you like that? That sound in the background?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good background
It's
noise
great.
for we gotta
100%.
cut.
Oh, is that
Like,
from
it's
here?
time.
That's mine.
Oh.
Just so that we
It's
know.
time. It's
Where's that?
time.
Yeah,
Where's
right.
it?
Yeah.
What's it from?
It's on my other phone.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But I have it just set so that we could. It's
Oh, I
kind of
hear it.
annoying after a while.
I
That
do
was
know
great.
what. Okay. Hey
That
guys,
was a great
another
show.
great show, amazing, and thank you guys for watching. This has been just such an inspiring show, and I gotta give you. Can I give you a hug, brother?
100%.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
Oh,
you
that
are,
was great.
Yeah,
That was great.
Oh, you are just really inspiring.
That was
to
great.
me.
That was amazing. That was fun.
And let's do pictures.
100%. Oh, can I go potty first?
Yes.
Yes.
So
You
on
wanna
the
show-
door. Let me just show you.
Let's we're still live.
Oh.